Boy, the comments just keep pouring in about this NIL. Whew. Let's bring him in. Hey, Jay Sarbaugh, head football coach of the Fairless Falcons. And I thought he'd be a really good person, good coach to check in with today about this, because AJ's a great dude. Love AJ. He's got his opinions. I think he's very he sticks to his opinions. Who used to have Mike Hargrove, the old skipper of the Cleveland, and he said, you got to have the courage of your convictions. And I know AJ's got that, and that's why I wanted to have him on to talk a little NIL today. Coach Sarbs, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on today. Hey, the first question, and this just kind of popped into my head. Let me take you back to North Canton Hoover when you were doing your thing on the football field. What would Mama and Papa Sarbs say about if you wanted to get into an NIL deal at that age back then? What kind of conversations would have been had in your house?
That's a great question.
I know.
I don't. It's hard to wrap my head around everything that's going on. I don't know. I don't know if my dad would have been for it or against it, or I don't. I can see where he's saying no because it's the amateur of sports, but at the same time, when you got 5 kids at home putting us all.
Yeah, that's I mean, you think about it. I try to put myself in that position when I was in school, and I think about, some of the moms and dads I've gotten to know over the years and their kids in the school, and it's such a slippery slope right now. And now that you are a head coach and you are running the show as far as football is concerned, and at some point, boy, we're having a terrible time with the audio here. Boy, if we only had a phone that worked. If you, at some point now, when your kids get older and get into the high school realm, and if this stuff is still around, I mean, how are you going to approach it now, and how will you look at it down the road, maybe, when your kids get into sports in the high school?
I think you just described it the best way you can, Sam. It's a slippery slope because I don't even know if colleges understood what they were getting into. And then, I mean, like, I know, obviously, I went to Mount, and I got buddies that are coaching in college, and they tell you stories about guys going to college, and they're going to get this, and then they don't start because they're still going to play the best guy, and then they leave. And, I mean, is that what's going to happen in high school? But in college, they got boosters playing, and I don't know if people see that name, image, likeness pass today, but do they actually see the rules? Like, a school can't pay a kid. A booster club can't pay a kid. So, like, it's not coming from your boosters where all these people are making comments. It's going to have to come from local businesses, and what are they going to be willing to do? And, like, they don't own the coach or the program, so I just don't know where it goes or how it operates. I just think there's so much unknown, and how are they going to pick what kids that they want to use for NIL to represent their business? Like, I don't know. There's so many questions to be asked.
It's almost, I wish that we could have taken a stand of, like, okay, the OHSCA and the school, they said, okay, we're going to make this a thing, but it's not going to go into effect for a year because we need 365 days to figure out every loophole, every rule, every positive, every negative. Let's go into this thing with having as much knowledge as we can and able to come up with a solution for every problem. It's like, okay, they voted it, passed it, boom, and now it's a free-for-all, and it's the wild, wild west. How do you think this is going to affect our schools? When I say our schools, the 20 schools that represent Stark County, how do you think this is going to affect the schools, the athletes, the coaches, and on down the line?
Yeah, I think what you said there about the OHSAA, I feel like they're making decisions fast anymore. And like we talked about the last time I was on, I don't care if the playoffs are 8 or 12.
Mhm.
I see both of it. But they came out in the summer saying you're going from 16 to 12. Well, like I know we scrimmage Indian Valley, and they were like, we played Green and Steubenville this year because we know 16 get in. And 2 years ago they were 13th and they played a tough schedule and still went 8-2, 7-3. They're like, what if we would have lost those two games? Like you can't make that decision in July when
Right.
schedules have already made. Like you should have said, hey, this is the last year of 16 and whatever. And that's how I think you're saying about this NIL. Like it voted. And the other thing that's interesting is it was like 447 to 132 today, which means that 300 some schools didn't vote.
Didn't
So
vote. Right.
they just pass the buck and say, whatever, we don't want to deal with it. Because the last time they voted on it, it didn't pass by like 250. It was a pretty wide margin.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the numbers are different. In our county, right now, I don't know if it's going to have a huge impact. I guess that's my gut feeling because I think the big schools are still the big schools. And if NIL does take place, I think they're going to give money to the best kids, which are on those bigger schools. Like I, and I could be wrong. I don't know if they're going to go and pick a kid from a smaller school and say, hey, we'll give you this NIL deal to come here.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, it's not the booster club, So I think that's where it's different than college, where these booster clubs and boosters are trying to go pick and prod kids from other schools. So um, right now, I'm hopeful that that's not where we're going. But like you said, there's so much unknown. But I think the way the county is set and the way NIL is worded, I think we're okay for right now.
AJ Sarbaugh is our guest, the great high school football coach, the Fairless Falcons, joining us to talk a little NIL here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN. I was thinking also, AJ, is it going to become, the proverbial, the big get bigger, the rich get richer, that kind of deal? Or I can think of a couple of examples. One of them is Lake County Perry. They've got that nuclear power plant up there, and they pretty much paid for every single bit of that brand new campus up there, that outstanding football field, the athletic facility. We know down in Conotton Valley, they had that big oil rush not too long ago. They did a whale of a job getting facilities together down there. Is it a point to where it's just maybe some schools that have the ability to reach out in certain areas of the state that might have some money that could help them with a D5, D6, D7, just like a Division 1, 2, or 3, or no?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all. Like when they have that money, if they can go out and attract kids with these NIL deals or these parents. But the other thing, I mean, now you're getting into a whole nother thing with recruiting and this or that. The
Right.
OHSA recruiting rules are still going to be the same and they're still going to follow that. At the end of the day, if they're going to use NIL to go get kids, if those kids are going to go somewhere else, they're still going to have to move. Like they're still going to have to transfer. They're still going to have to follow all of that. So then what's the OHSA do now? Is Sam Bourquin going to school A because now he has this NIL deal with that car dealership? Like, so that's the unknown. How is the OHSA going to look into that? How deep are they going to get involved where you're connecting dots or we're just letting it go? I don't know. That are all possible.
We've seen how this has gone at the college level, and it almost has just turned into, it's all recruiting now. They put money into a collective, and the coaches say, okay, we got $25 million to work with here. Let's go get 2 tight ends, a wide receiver, a tackle, a safety, and maybe a backup QB. Okay, good. Now we need to restock that pool for next year to go out and get the next. At the high school level, I hate to use the word recruiting in high school, but let's be honest, it happens. How closely tied is the possibility of recruiting going to be with this NIL and the possibilities that it could open up for?
I think that's where when you're talking D1, D2 compared to D5, 6, and 7, I think that's where probably the biggest gap is because those D1, D2 schools, they're going to have more resources and more people, and they're going to put their depth chart up and say, hey, what do we need to go beat so and so? What do we need to win the region? What do we need to go finally get over the hump and win a state title? And they're going to start throwing names across the board saying, if we take care of this kid or this family, is that a possibility?
What happens to an athlete who has gotten set up with a let's just say they're a sophomore and they get set up for a 3-year deal with business X, and the student athlete after about 6 weeks, maybe a year, more or less quits. I don't want to say defaults on the agreement, but they kind of break it. They don't do what they're supposed to do in regards to that NIL agreement. What happens then? I mean, does the business start going after the kid, their parents, the coach, to try to figure out what the problem is? Is that something that just gets swept under the rug? Does the agreement, does it just get taken away? How does something like that going to work?
I think that's the question that none of us know the answer to. And you've seen it in the college game. Like, look at what happened with Tennessee's quarterback, how he wanted more money and says he's going to leave. And Tennessee says, we're not going to pay you. And now he jumps ship for UCLA. And Miami had a quarterback that they said they paid him a bunch of money, but he wasn't the best guy. And so he leaves. And so now I think it's all how these contracts are written. And, that's the scary thing, because you're not even dealing with 18-year-olds. You could be dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And so who is responsible for these contracts? And once again, just like college, it's not the school that's paying them. It's not the coach. It's not the booster club. So it's not saying, we're going to give you this and you're going to stay here for 2 years. It's a third party. So they have no control over who plays or who starts. And that's where I think it gets scary. And now we're giving kids power. And I keep repeating myself, but there's just so many unknowns. And we're still seeing it in the college game. How long has NIL been around for now? 3-4 years? And they don't even have it figured out yet.
No idea.
They're nowhere close.
What role, AJ, will the coaches have in all of this?
I think that depends on where you're at. I think the businesses, I could see them coming to a coach and saying, hey, we'd like to sponsor a kid, or we'd like to do a player of the week and give them a gift card or $100, something like that each week, or, the Bell Stores player of the game, stuff like that. Or it could even go to a higher level where they're using it to recruit kids like you already talked about. I think it depends on how big your school is and how important winning is and the types of businesses you have in your community. And I think you're going off a web there where there's a lot of different variables depending on where you're at and the resources you have, how deeply involved the coach is going to get involved now.
AJ Sarbaugh is our guest, head coach of the Fairless Falcons, talking a little NIL here on 1310 WDPN, the Sam Bourquin Show. One more, we'll let you fly. This might be a little bit of an uncomfortable question, but all the coaches are going to have to put up with it, whether it's track and field, football, hockey, basketball, whatever. Say student gets a deal, and let's just say midway through the season, he's not producing, and playing time gets taken away. He's just not cutting it like he's supposed to. And you make the decision to put the backup in, get him more reps, more playing time. All of a sudden, there's a phone call or a text saying, hey, coach, we need to get together. I'm the owner of business A. I got to deal with this kid. He's not playing. Well, how do you handle something like that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, that's where it's so important with this OHSA language, that it's third party. And they can pay these kids hypothetically, but at the end of the day, as coaches, we're paid to make decisions for the betterment of the team. And unfortunately, these things aren't always going to agree. But I would hope that all coaches, regardless of money, are going to do what's best for the kids and play the best players. At the end, I think you're seeing that in college too. There's been a couple instances we've already talked about, but I guess that's something else that people could deal with. But who's to say that a family owns a business and they give their kid an NIL deal.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's one of your best players, but he's getting paid. So I mean, I don't I don't know. I think at the end of the day, our job is to put the best kids on the field, and whatever happens, happens. And I think if you're a strong-willed coach, but I don't see too many coaches in Stark County taking that phone call from a business and saying, "Yeah, let's sit down and talk." I just don't see that conversation happening.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, my man, I appreciate you coming on today. Give your best to the family. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a great holiday over the weekend, and we'll catch up with you here down the road. I appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me on. As always, appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving too.
You got it. There he goes, Coach A.J. Sarbaugh, the Fairless Falcons, weighing in and talking a little NIL with us here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN.